It's the return of conquering 200 movies just in time for Halloween. I still have about 3/4 of this box set to go, but for this creepy time of the year, I wanted to check something out that I know will be good. We haven't done too many from the silent era, so why not give Phantom of the Opera a watch, directed by Rupert Julian, based on the novel from 1910 written by Gaston Leroux. This is of course the first notable adaptation of the source material. Throughout the century, there'd be a dozen more visual interpretations, including the Brian De Palma film, the musical, and an animated movie that may lift its main character's look from this universal classic. Of course, it wasn't the first time Phantom had been done. There's a German movie from 1916, but it's been long lost, so good luck trying to talk about that. So for now, the first Phantom of the Opera is this 1925 version. But like any good movie, the history of the Lon Chaney classic is not so simple. The movie was released in 1925, after a third and final edit was done for the movie. After sound was introduced into cinemas, they decided to recut the film again, but this time they added new scenes and sound elements. A lot of these new scenes are lost, and only a fraction of the sound still survives, but this became known as the 1929 version, or sometimes the 1930 version. It's kind of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It premiered in 1937, but didn't really get a general release until 1938, yet everyone considers it to be a 1937 movie, and I myself go by the American premiere date for most movies, even though this whole conversation is useless since the movie is actually from 1925. In any case, this 1929 version is technically lost, since the sound version doesn't really exist in its full form. In the 1950s, a mixed up version of the sound movie and the silent movie was given to the Eastman House. This is the version that's most well known to audiences today, as it's the one that showed up on most of the VHS tapes, as it's now in the public domain. The 1925 version was also lost for a while, but it was saved in a 16mm form, so this one is in really rough shape. It's also worth noting, a lot of the footage from the 1925 original is in the Eastman version, but the Eastman cut, which utilizes footage from the 1929 sound version, has numerous shots that are either from a different angle or a completely different take entirely, all shot for the 1925 movie. This is because that movie was actually shot with two cameras side by side, so the other footage could be used for the foreign market. So with this movie, there's so many different options, and the Kino Blu-ray offers the 1925 version with two different scores, and the 1929 Eastman cut with different scores and different frame rates. Essentially what I'm getting at is, for the purpose of this review, I'm going to refer to the 24 frames per second 1929 cut from Kino, which I believe has additional color tinting. Man, that was a lot to explain. I hope this is a good enough rundown of the history of the Phantom, but let's look at the movie itself. It's the basic tale of a disfigured being falling for the beautiful girl, and it's especially not the first one to take place in France. This time it happens in an opera house, a beautiful set that is a triumph for the silent era. I'm always amazed by just how much money would be poured into these early films. Mary Philbin plays Christine, and she just looks amazing, even after 100 years. The acting in silent films is a bit of a lost art. Without sound, all the emotion had to come through the movement and expressions, something she pulls off spectacularly. Like the book, we have the love interest of Raoul, played by Norman Carey, and for the place of the Persian, we get Ledoux, played by Arthur Edmund Carraway, who's just got such a creepy and memorable face. Of course, the most memorable face in the movie is Lon Chaney. Even after every other interpretation has come since, the look of Eric's face in this one still tops them all. It's so gross and unbelievable, somehow managing to make the face look as though it's missing a nose. Lon Chaney did his own makeup, and what a skill he had, because this creepy look hasn't been recreated since. Every other version seems to have the actor look less like a monster and more like a disfigurement, which probably makes more sense for the original story, but I don't know. The little scars on Gerard Butler probably wouldn't cause pitchforks and torches to come knocking at your door. This Phantom would cause an angry mob. This guy is wretched. 10 out of 10. The movie works as a haunting piece. I feel that the passage of time has helped it too. There's something just always unnerving to me about watching these old silent flicks. It creeps me out to think that some of these sets or props possibly still exist, covered in dust, giving everything a musty quality. I always imagine myself roaming around and something lurking behind me. It even has some moments of color, but the Phantom's masquerade is so unbelievably scary and cool. This is what people should be cosplaying as. But strangely enough, I was surprised to find not only humorous moments, but straight up slapstick in this movie. Even the Phantom himself manages to fit a joke in before his death, which to me gives him a moment of humanity at the end. Like, come on people, don't drown him just because of that, he only killed a couple people. I guess for the death count, there's a guy who gets hung, a father who gets drowned, and numerous people who are trampled by a chandelier. Not the biggest amount of kills for a universal monster, but still pretty dastard. The story is told pretty well from what I can remember of the novel. They have certain elements I was surprised would appear, like the grasshopper and scorpion scenario, which to this day, the idea of that makes me laugh. Like, how much time does this guy have to set up traps and explosions connected to levers that are way too nicely designed? There's not really a love story between the Phantom and Christine. She's lured by him, but she never really gives any emotion back. But it was the 20s. He was meant to be portrayed as terrifying, but I find this to be much more believable of a reaction than the musical, which turns them more into a complicated relationship. In any case, the Phantom kidnaps Christine at the end, and she just kind of hops out. He runs away. It feels a bit rushed, as if it was added after a poor test screening, which is exactly what happened, but it is a classic ending that's shown up in many of the Universal horror films. The movie still works effectively, if not more so today. It has that creepy feeling, and you can feel the size of the production. As for what version you should watch, it's entirely up to you. If you're still new to silent films, I'd give the 72-minute 1929 version a watch, as it's the shortest one, so you don't have to worry about it being a slow pace and possibly getting bored. However, any way you can watch the 1929 version is probably recommended by most, but I do plan to give the 1925 version a watch someday. I'm surprised this has never shown up on the Universal Monsters Collection box set or anything. The movie ended up in the public domain, so I guess Universal doesn't bother releasing it, even though it's much more popular than their 1943 film. Maybe it's because it's silent, so people wouldn't be interested, or maybe because there's not a good picture quality film negative to source from, but I don't know, you could still throw it in as a bonus feature, but the Kino version does the job. And I guess if you wanted a sound version, just watch the 1943 movie. It's the same sets, and it has Claude Rains, even though he's underutilized. It's entertaining and makes a couple changes to the story, but it does lack that chill factor the original movie has. Simply put, nobody can top Lon Chaney. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.